Welcome to the Entrepreneurial CEO Podcast, where we dive into the real stories behind building and scaling a business. Each episode, we sit down with CEOs, founders, and leaders to uncover hard-won lessons in leadership, systems, and team building. Listen in each week to learn directly from real business leaders who have been in your shoes, had success, made the mistakes, and all of the messiness that comes with building a business. If you're ready to learn from real-world leaders and gain insights you can apply today, you're in the right place. So let's get started. Hey everyone, welcome back to the show. KC, thanks for being here, man. Nice to see you.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Well, hey everyone, welcome back. Today's guest is Chohan, founder of Together CFO. Casey started in corporate finance before launching one of the fastest growing CFO firms in the US, helping high net worth individuals and business owners protect their wealth with advanced tax and legacy planning strategies. Casey's originally from the UK. He's now a go-to advisor for entrepreneurs, a speaker on some of the top finance stages, and the founder of the Chohan Foundation, which I'd love to learn more about, which supports families facing life-threatening health conditions. Casey, it's amazing to have you here. Thank you so much for your time, man. I look forward to diving in.
Yeah, thank you so much. So we covered a lot of it there. So born and raised in England, as you can probably tell from the accent, although I've been based in LA now since 2011. It's worn off a little bit. But my background straight out of university was with a big Fortune 500 company, working literally from making cups of tea from day one all the way up to becoming a controller for the European region. And then I transferred over to a North American region, which is how I ended up here in beautiful, sunny Los Angeles. Then quickly left corporate America when I realized it was very, very different, even with the same company that I was working for in the US compared to the UK. It was very, very corporate, Shark Tanky experience, as you would probably expect. But I didn't expect it. I thought it would be somewhat similar to the way we were in Europe, but it wasn't. So I left and I started my own company, Together CFO, back in 2016 now. Holy smokes, it feels like a long time. And we would outsource fractional CFOs. In our first year, we had a relatively great success with one of our clients. We took him from 5 million a year in revenue all the way up to 120 million a year in revenue. So he was ecstatic with that, as you can imagine. But it did create a different set of problems for him. So he then had a relatively large multi-seven-figure tax bill. Then he put us to work. And this was really me getting outside of my comfort zone because I didn't really know anything about American taxes, being a W-2 employee for the entire duration of me being here. And a CFO speciality, it can vary a lot, but usually it doesn't get too much into the tax world. So this was me kind of having to learn quickly. So he put me to work, even though I was like, we can hire someone to figure that out. He believed more in me than I believed in myself at that point, if I kind of reframe myself and go back all those years. But ultimately, what the research that I did found, and then we executed the plan, we ended up saving him over $12 million in year one. And the key to that was by creating private foundations. And quickly realized that that was much more exciting to me than being a fractional CFO, which really means a lot of different things to different people, depending on who you ask. You know, a CFO could be out there raising funds, he could be doing an IPO, he could just be doing the month end. So there's so much variety of what a CFO is needed at what stage of a company and what size of a company as well, that it felt really good and natural to kind of double down on being able to create that same saving using a structure rather than a loophole for multiple people. So we did that and we doubled down on that. So we kind of bridge the gap between a family office and a multi-seven-figure entrepreneur, whereas most people that are doing this type of structure are making 50 million plus or like the significant excess cash that they can afford a family office or a multi-family office. That's how they unlock this more advanced solution even though it's written in plain sight, it's like if you could ask 100 CPAs, do they know what a foundation is? Yes, they do, but are they specialists in it? Do they know how to strategically use that, stay in the rules, but then also get the benefits of it? And they don't. So they focus more on the standard loopholes, which is fine because there's a bigger market of people that need those loopholes than it is the small percentage of people that get into the multi 7, 8, 9-figure streams of revenue, right? So we kind of specialized, we've found a niche, and that's really what we've done for since 2017. And then more recently, we created our own software, which is an AI CFO. It's kind of a spin-off, Together CFO, but it helps solve the problem that we found so frequently at the beginning of our company. So you can connect in your accounting software and effectively have my brain that you can talk to as if you'd hired me for tens of thousands of dollars for a fraction of the cost.
That's pretty awesome, man. I have a lot of questions based on that, but just on that last thread with the AI CFO, are you guys creating your own LLM? Like you're training the model so that it can answer questions, or it will answer questions based how you would answer the questions?
Yeah, it's a mixture of me plus the better community out there, right? So we've built it with the generic questions that over the last 10 years that I've seen that most entrepreneurs would ask. So if you wanted to know, hey, what's your accounts receivable, or what's your net profit, or your working capital cycles, cash flow, that type of thing, it can answer all of them. But then it can also take it one level further if you need a budget or a forecast or a variance analysis from your actuals to your budgets or to your forecasts. It can do all of that very quickly, very easily, without you needing to be an Excel wizard. So it can save you a lot of time, or if you've got a finance team in place, it can save them a lot of time because they don't have to do all this manual exporting and kind of manipulation in Excel. They can just do it all directly in the AI.
I could see that being super valuable to get really quick and easy answers to the questions that you might have about the financials. What about the data being secure or private? How is that handled?
Yeah, great question. We get that every single day.
I'm sure.
Held in private servers, as you can imagine. We've been heavily vetted by QuickBooks and Xero and all the big accounting softwares and had all those approvals. So it's very safe and very secure, and ultimately it's anonymous. So the minute we take the data out, it's no longer got your company name. It's got a unique identifier, so nobody knows who that relates to as well.
That's really cool. Okay. Going back to, you said CFO can mean many things. And, with a lot of the people in our audience and in the MAP community, it's companies of all sizes. But, oftentimes it's a small, medium-sized business. So if you're not, Coca-Cola or Nike or whatever, if you're still an SMB, a small business, what does a CFO mean? What is their role within that company to get them to the next level?
The way I think of it is there's different levels and you need different skills and team members at each level. So let's just start at inception at startup. When you're at the startup phase, the likelihood is you probably do not need a CFO, right? You're scrapping around, trying to figure out product market fit, trying to get sales. That's going to be the main effort and focus of the executive team, is just to bring in sales. Then when you start bringing in sales, you're like, oh, okay, we've got a few clients now. Now we need to optimize operations because we can't have these 5 clients take up all of our time. We need to bring in more, so we need to get smart, right? Optimize. And then it goes around in a cycle where you'll have marketing and sales start growing because now you're dealing with clients, you're getting them good results, you've got more bandwidth because you've optimized it, and you want to continue that cycle on until again, in my personal opinion, what I've seen is until you get to, I would say, low $1 million, maybe 1 to 3 million as a range, you could have a relatively small team with one brilliant individual that's leading that team, a visionary, drag it to that size. Once you get past that size, let's just call that threshold 3 million, you then desperately need to build people, systems, and processes. Because the team that's got you from 0 to 3 million is not the same team that's going to get you from 3 million to 10 million, 10 million to 30 million, and so on and so on. So in the early days, I would say you don't need a CFO, hire a fractional CFO or use an AI CFO. But then when you get to, let's say, 3 million or 5 million, and now you have different problems because you've already demonstrated that you've got a good product, it fits with the market, there's a demand for it. Now you're probably talking about scaling issues. So now do you need to raise a seed round? Do you need VC funding? Are you wanting to exit? You want to plan that? Do you want IPO? Do you want to do a reverse merger? Like, how are you acquiring good talent? Are you giving them shares? Are those shares vesting? There's so many different angles from a finance perspective that come into play, from both looking at a potential exit strategy, valuation strategies, or, retaining good staff, or packages, or commissions if you have a sales team in place. So now you want to build out a really comprehensive sales package. So it's commission plus this, plus that on multi-year deals and contracts as you look to kind of get into enterprise value or bigger deals. So the CFO that comes in at the fractional part-time level is probably just reviewing financials and saying, hey, this is the monthly performance. Yes, the bookkeeper has done everything right. All the checks and balances tie out. We're okay. Focus on this area, that area, or this area for growth. These are the top 3 products. Why are these expenses high? And kind of give you a general overview. But then as you start growing in revenue, you start having different problems or opportunities, right? Depending on how you see it. And that's where you then want to bring in a specialist, because the CFO that's doing the fractional CFO services at a $3 million level, it's probably not the CFO that you want if you want to go IPO, because they haven't done it before. You want someone with experience who's been there and done that, because that experience will help fast track your whole journey. And you can then you can pay them to not have to make the same mistakes that they've made over the decades that they've been doing it. That's effectively what I would recommend when we get asked that question on who should we hire, how should we hire. It's always the person that's been there and done that, and even better if they've got the Rolodex that they can bring with them to just plug and play.
Yep. Yeah, I always say it's somebody that's seen the movie before, right? Or somebody that knows where the landmines are, so you don't have to step on them. It's so valuable. You talked about scaling. So I'm curious, you've worked with a bunch of successful entrepreneurs and clients. When you think about those that have scaled or that have challenges, are there any like large blind spots or common patterns you see that prevent others from growing and scaling?
We all have blind spots. I think a lot of it is take your ego out of it. I think a lot of, especially guys, will be the macho guy that has to be huge and perfect at all times. And it's like, no, you don't. That's just a fake avatar that you've made. It's being vulnerable and knowing what you're good at, but then also knowing what you're not good at. Because if you know that you're not good at sales, then you can hire someone to do the sales calls. You don't have to be the one person wearing multiple hats because you're at a different stage of the company. At the beginning, when you can't afford that person or you don't have enough calls being booked to hire a person that would be good enough to do it, okay, you've got to figure it out. But when you move past that phase, I would say that hire people that are better than you in different skill sets, right? So my sales guys, as an example, I was terrible at sales because my background is all accounting and finance. Yes, I can explain numbers to people, but people don't usually buy on the logic of a saving. They buy on emotion. I didn't know that coming into it. So it's like, I'm trying to sell them on, hey, look how much I can save you on taxes. And they're like, all right, that's a big number. But they weren't converting because I wasn't bringing the emotional piece into it and saying, hey, how much of a difference would this make to your family, to your kids, to your parents, to your sister, to your charity, to your church, whatever, right? It wraps it differently. So I wasn't really good at that at the beginning. So my sales guys, they're phenomenal because they actually care. And that's one thing I took a lot from Tony Robbins and kind of the personal development community is that the person who cares the most wins. So but you can't teach people to care. They either have it in them or they don't.
That's
It's
right.
kind of like desire, right? It's like you either have the desire or you do not. It's not something that someone can instill into you, unfortunately. So finding the right people is really key, but then also showing them love. I think coming from an accounting background, it pains me to see that on all the financial statements, there is no value for the staff on there at all. Yet that is the heartbeat of any company. Because if you get bad team, you're not going to succeed in your company very long. It might be a temporary win, but it's not going to be a long-term win. But if you have a great team, life is really good for a lot of people, and you can make a much bigger difference with a good environment. And I didn't really appreciate that kind of as we grew, the value of culture and just having a good team and good like core beliefs. I thought it was all a little bit corporately woo-woo type BS. But as I kind of grown a big company, or relatively big, we're only at 31, so we've still got space to grow. But even getting to that size, it's really shown to me that the value of the culture and the community, and to like ultimately treat people as you would like them to treat you. That's really
That's
one
right.
of the core values.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen both sides, so I fully agree with you. You're only going to go as far as the quality of your team, right? It really is true. Building a team of A players, you'll be unstoppable. If you pair that with a good product and a good market, that's how rocket ships are born, right? And even with a mediocre product, if you have a good team, you're going to go out, execute everybody else, and you're probably going to have fun doing it because you have a good team that you're all bought in, rowing in the same direction. And that's hard. It's hard to find good people, and it's hard to keep good people. But if they feel rewarded and they feel like they're valued and they feel like they're growing, I think they're more inclined to stay. And that culture stuff doesn't have to be, just fuzzy, soft stuff, right? It can be just like shared vision, shared attitude. We all work hard. So it could be just shared values. And I'm sure that's what you're building there.
And a lot of the core values and the core beliefs, we install that right at the beginning through our hiring process. It's like, hey, this is who we are. This is our core values. You will be tracked on a lot of metrics. The cream will always rise to the top. And if you're not comfortable with all of these values and really living that, you're not going to be a good fit here. And what it tends to do is it makes people take notice at the beginning, and it's like, oh shit, these guys are really on top of things. So it weeds out a lot of people that are just there for a quick buck, as opposed to the people that really want to make a career out of this and not just see it as a job.
I like that. I like that you put it in the interview, right? Might as well start off on the right foot.
A lot of that comes from a book called Top Grading. And that's a fantastic book that we've used a lot of pieces of it, to implement. And it's definitely helped weed out a lot of that, because when you're hiring, you've got to do a really good filter on the one or two gems that are in that pile.
It's very hard. I think it's very hard to the hiring process, right? It's like we get to meet with you a couple times and we have to make this long-term decision about whether this show we're both putting on is actually going to work out and you're the person that you are during the show. It's very challenging. And it's also, I know it's hard for the people that are applying for jobs too. So I think it's challenging on both sides. That industry is begging to be disrupted with a better process.
Hi, if you're a CEO out there who's struggling with focus for your company, aligning your team, accountability, if you're struggling with execution, connecting the dots from where you're at to where you want to be, we've got a great program for you here at MAP. My name is Michael Cato. I'm the CEO. Most importantly, I was a client for 15 years, sold my company to a public company, and then bought MAP so that we can help other entrepreneurs with this specific problem. We're a 60-year-old company. We've worked with 170,000 individual executives and CEOs. We've worked with 15,000 organizations. This is what we do. Click the link below to learn a little bit more about how people just like you, CEOs, have transformed their business and ultimately transformed their life by running through the MAP system.
Yeah, and we're seeing that now. So I was at an AI conference a couple of months back in Vegas, and there was a company there that paired you up with remote VAs, not just VAs, but remote staff. And what they do is they have the staff take a personality test, and you take a personality test, and then you also give the requirements of the tasks that need doing, and it would like compute the best match fit for both. I was like, oh wow, that's actually super smart. So you go through a database of thousands of people and get down to like 5 that are a good fit both for personality and job description. So and they're crushing it. They're doing a really good job. So that was really impressive, that how AI doesn't necessarily have to replace people, but it can make it more efficient.
Mm-hmm. We've talked about it a lot on these podcast episodes. It's an amplifier, right? It just amplifies your ability to do something. It makes things better. It doesn't always have to replace. Yeah, I like the personality. We use DISC a lot. I'm not sure if you're familiar with DISC. So we use DISC. We have candidates take DISC and use that in the workshop a lot. But you can totally tell, right? If somebody's applying for a BD role and they come in and their DISC behavioral style is they're more of an introvert, they're just not. It's not going to be a match, right? Or you can tell a lot by somebody's DISC report. So you've said, I think, that you focus on first generational wealth builders. Is that right?
Yeah, pretty much.
So within those, are there any unique challenges that clients face when it comes to this operational discipline or their leadership infrastructure, or as they grow and scale their business?
Yeah, what we seem to find as a recurring theme is that when people are growing, let's talk about growth versus being rich and growing versus being wealthy and not wanting to lose it. It's 2 different buckets of people. The first generational wealth entrepreneur is usually the riskier side, and they've taken the risk and they've grown a company and they're doing really well. That they're also very married to the company also, right? If they stepped away, revenue would go down. So it's being able to take yourself out of the company and it continue growing is where you go from being rich to being wealthy, or effectively where you make money while you're sleeping, right? And that's really a transition that most people either don't see it like that, or they're just too busy to even think about the long-term wealth. And that paired with loopholes versus structures is the segue that I'm going to get into, because loopholes will be able to help you at a lower level as you're growing your wealth, because there's so many of them, right? Down to hiring your kids, renting your house back to yourself, retirement accounts, real estate. The list goes on and on. There's like over 50, and we have the top 50 free loopholes for free in our school community. So if anybody would like to download that, they're more than welcome to. But the loopholes are there and have a time and a place that they should be used as you're growing. But then when you get to, let's just say, a multi-7-figure revenue, you start working out of the loopholes, because now you can only write so much off to a kid. You can only buy so many cars in a given year and then depreciate them, or real estate. You can cap out your retirement accounts at a couple of $1,000s. But if you're making a couple of $1 million, you're not worried about thousands. You're worried about hundreds of thousands. So that's where structures become more of a viable option than loopholes. Yes, you should do the loophole stuff first, 100%, because that's effectively free money that you're leaving on the table. But as you really grow into those higher tiers and build structures is what all of the billionaires are using, what all the family offices are using. And there's a reason to that, because you don't have to go through the same admin to tick a box to be able to use a loophole, when you can make a donation once a year and boom, you get this huge tax write-off that you can use over 5 years and still control the funds.
Interesting. That's super interesting. Yeah, you talked about people working in the business versus on the business, or not being able to take vacations. That's what I like. When people are curious about MAP and want to start, we ask them probably 5 questions. And one of those is, could you take a vacation for 2 weeks or a month without the business falling apart? And if the answer is no, you need MAP, man, or maybe
I took a year off when my son was born.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Most people could not do that.
Yeah, and in that year, I got bored, and then I developed my software company because it's like, all right, I need to do something here.
You've created a software company, an amazing one, the AI CFO as a hobby. That's pretty cool.
Pretty much, yeah, absolutely.
That's pretty cool. So as Together CFO has grown, how do you structure your own leadership team and your operations so that you can do that, so you can leave for a year and it doesn't fall apart?
I promoted within, so my sales manager became my operations and sales manager because he's just amazing. So this is a guy who I see as my brother more than an employee or anything, right? So having the potential to do it and being able to do it is two different things. So we talked about this for a long time, and then I was there training him. And don't get me wrong, it's not as if I sailed away never to be spoken to again. I was always there available on a phone call when needed. So maybe it was 4 or 5 hours a week, or maybe 8 hours a week. It's not a big deal compared to being in the business 40 plus hours a week, right? So just knowing that there's an extra level of comfort for the team if they do need to reach out, but ultimately breaking everything down into really small chunks. Because a lot of the time what we see is the owner or the founder just thinks, hey, nobody can do this as good as me. And that's probably not true. But the other thing that probably is true is nobody cares as much as you because it's your baby. And that's probably true, but it's two different things. So if you broke down everything that you did into 30-minute segments, and you can do it quite easily by just keeping a time journal, right? And seeing, hey, what did I do on a given day? And then be able to pass that off to different people. It doesn't all have to be one person. It could be 4 people that replace you by all taking a couple of hours each, or a new task that every time this happens, that person has to do this. Yeah. And we use EOS as well. So we are a big traction component to running an efficient organization. And you mentioned it earlier, like we're all rowing in the same direction. And that's really key terminology to use, because if even one of those paddles is off, you'll end up at a completely different destination, and it'll take you a lot more energy to get there than if you're all rowing in a straight line in a straight time. So being aligned down to the right person in the right seat is EOS terminology for those who are not familiar. But my sales manager is a great guy, great at sales, but also great with people. So for him to step over into an operations role, he already knows a lot of the operations because our sales process is very hands-on. And it isn't just, hey, we pass them off and forget about them. So now he's just effectively going from the relationship from call 1 to the ongoing relationship on quarterly calls as well, which is good because it gives the client that continuity of, hey, this is my person, this is my guy. Yeah. And then if they did ever need to get an urgent message at 1 a.m. to me, then they can as well. It's not as if I'm totally away from it. So having that balance, but back to team, right, is that I don't think there's anyone else that cares as much about Together CFO as me, but Adam is a very close second.
And does he have equity in the business, or some sort of incentive structure to make him care so much?
No, good incentive structure, no equity. But because of that, I did give him equity in the software company. So just to kind of, even though he's not really very hands-on on a day-to-day basis in there, because we're building more partnerships at the minute, but to make him feel valued and loved and kind of part of something bigger than just one thing, I gave him some equity in the software.
That's awesome. It's so powerful to have a key team member like that. How do so you're at 31 now. How are you building the next wave of Adams so that as you continue to grow, you have more people that you can delegate to? I mean, you're talking about delegation, right? It's like you're carving off more of the business, you're giving it to them. What do you do to develop your people internally?
Well, I've done that with the software team, right? So the latest team that I built out as I kind of stepped away from Together CFO for a minute was, I don't know anything about development, software, AI, a little bit, just enough to be dangerous, fire a couple of YouTube videos, but not really the weeds or the architecture of how to create something that's going to last. So hiring that team, but just the same thing over and over again. So the team that we hired one developer first that we're really comfortable with, that we really like, and then he can go on and then hire the rest of the team out because he knows what he needs. I'm just guessing at what he needs, right? So as long as I can hire that first position and kind of know that that's solid, then give that team leader the confidence and ability and trust to then go backfill the additional pieces that he needs. One shows trust as well, right? Because now you're giving this person a level of authority to go get stuff done, but then also bring in the right people and the right team to deliver, because the decision that I made is I wanted it to be an internal team rather than like a third-party agency or firm. So I wanted to have more control over, hey, we need this doing, drop everything else and get this done. And I see it as a long-term investment, because if you're not thinking about AI, if you're not thinking about optimizations and efficiencies, then you're going to be well behind the curve in the next couple of years.
Oh, for
sure. You're going to be playing constant catch-up. So I thought at some point we would have an AI team or a development team that we would need to hire. So we might as well bring them in early now and kind of build out a really good product as well at the same time.
Good for you, man. I couldn't agree more. If you are not leaning into it in a heavy way, you're going to be so far behind in 2-3 years. Maybe even a year. I mean, it's moving
probably
fast.
Even sooner. We've seen it, right? Where before you go to no code. Now you don't even need any coding at all, because you can just prompt it and say, "Hey, build me a website or replicate this website," and boom, you are aware. It's like, it's frightening at the pace at which it continues to grow. It's like a hockey stick that just hockey stick on top of hockey stick on top of hockey stick, which is it's rather exciting and frightening all at the same time, especially when you start seeing that mixed with robotics and you're seeing these robots. And then I don't know if you've been reading, but in Thailand, they now have a robot police officer. So like RoboCop is patrolling the streets of Thailand right now as we speak.
I have not seen that. Really?
Yeah.
Wow. I don't know about that.
That's what I mean. It's like, it's fantastic in terms of like, it can give you some great efficiencies, but it's also a little frightening if it's not used in kind of the right manner. And, people of our age, we remember Skynet and Terminator very well. And, we're edging closer to that every day.
It's pretty wild, man. An AI robotic cop. That's pretty crazy. I'm still stuck on like using the AI dev tools, and I think that's amazing. So, I mean, I just, like you said, just prompt it and it spins up a website or builds a tool or builds an app. Like, it's incredible.
It's crazy good. Yeah.
Yeah. We actually just had somebody on the podcast last week, and he was saying that his development team, they developed a feature in an hour, in literally 1 hour, that was projected to take them weeks. And they cut it down to 1 hour using AI, which is just like, I mean, I've run tech companies before. We would have to wait months for new features and products. And now stuff is just getting developed so fast with AI. It's crazy. So it's just incredible the pace at which things are going. You
used the word before, amplify. And I think that's exactly what it does, is if you can amplify where you are or what vision you have, that's where it can kind of take that and kind of throw it in a million directions and test it and tell you, hey, this is the winner, use this one. And it's like, that maybe would have taken us weeks or months to kind of product test, put it in front of real people, get feedback, and then market it, sell it. Now you can do all of that in one afternoon.
Mm-hmm. Crazy. We're lucky to have the tool now. I think we're super fortunate to be in business at a time when these tools are available. So talk about Together CFO and the new AI products. Like, what is your vision for where you guys are going with the companies, and what's in your way?
So we've just been to the Milken event here in LA this last week, and it kind of it always surprises me when speaking with super smart people that invest tens of millions of dollars that are not using private foundations as their tool. So in terms of where we are going, it's a huge education piece, I think, is really the simple answer. Because even at a family office level, I must have spoken to at least 50, 60 people that invest well over 100 million for their funds, and they do not use private foundations. Yes, they're semi-aware of it. And then when asked, why don't you use a private foundation? They were honest enough to say, well, I just don't know enough about it. So there's a huge education gap there. So I think for us, and one of the main things that we're doing is trying to put out more information to the right types of people, let's say multi-7 all the way up to 9-figure business owners and funds and family offices, that you don't just have to use a private foundation for charity. Yes, that is always the core mission and purpose, but there's so many additional benefits from tax savings, asset protection, totally eliminating capital gains tax. But my favorite one is the legacy component. Is now you can create your lasting family legacy, pass that on to future generations, all in a tax exempt environment. And people just don't know that, and it's not really their fault either. Because when you drill down to the next level, it's like, okay, well, why don't you know that? Because a lot of people know about a 1031 exchange, and this is one very specific loophole that's been around for a long time. And it's, well, why do you know about a 1031 exchange, but you don't know about a private foundation, which is arguably 10 times more powerful? And it comes down to the team that you're around, right? We mentioned it at the beginning. It's the team that's got you from where you were to where you are is not the same team that's going to get you where you want to be in the future. So whether it's the CPA that is stuck in their own ways, or it's your brother-in-law, so you can't fire him or change, but that CPA definitely is not well-versed or educated in the power of private foundations and what that can do for their clients. The same way a wealth manager isn't, the same way a private banker isn't. So in this community of, let's call it trusted finance professionals, they just don't know what they don't know. So if you go to the CPA, he's going to say, hey, we need to use these 5 loopholes or these 6 loopholes that I've been using for years on all my clients. But he's not going to go over all 50. But he should go over all 50. But he's too lazy to learn, hey, well, this is a new loophole for this year, or this is a specific loophole for your industry. So let's just use the Q sub for C Corps. So if you have a C Corp and you've had it for more than 5 years, you don't have to pay capital gains tax if you exit. But that's such a specific thing that a certain CPA wouldn't really know unless they've been through it or someone's mentioned it to them, because they're not, most of them, again, I'm highly generalizing here, but most of them are not very active in learning what's new out there for the betterment of their clients. And the reason is, the harsh truth is they don't work for their clients. They work for the IRS. They are getting paid to fill out the form and make sure you sign it and send your money in. They are not getting paid to save you more money. If their incentive was based on how much they saved you, they would take it a lot more seriously to go through every single loophole and structure. But that's just not the case.
That's really interesting. I wonder if it would behoove clients to set up their structure with them in a different way, right? Like, I'll pay you this as a baseline, but I'm going to ratchet it up based on whatever savings you get.
Yeah, and that now makes them more of a trusted advisor and a strategic CFO, let's call it, rather than just a once-a-year tax preparer.
That's interesting. I like that a lot, actually. Performance-based.
And that's a lot of what our software does as well, is that it helps bookkeepers, controllers, business managers, business coaches kind of create that next deeper level of strategic advice for their clients, because we want to create that win-win for everyone, right?
Yeah, that's super interesting. Within the MAP community, we have a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of business leaders. What we like to do, we always ask people on the show if there's maybe something they can share, something different that you do in your business, a process, a system, a way that you lead your team or hire or whatever, that people listening might be able to take back and implement into their business. Does anything come to mind?
Yeah, so the strategic giving blueprint is what we call it. And that is exactly how it sounds. It's giving to a foundation strategically. So it's your own foundation. And that will enable you on the lowest end to get a 30% tax deduction whilst you fully control all the funds in the foundation. So that's what I would say look into and read up on. In addition to that, the software tool that we mentioned, financialfusion.io, and we'll give a coupon code out to all your listeners as well. So if they'd like to go check that out, we can give them 3 months free, which is a $300 value, absolutely free for being part of your community. So they can get that code probably in the show notes.
Awesome, man. That's a very generous offer. Thank you. Well, cool. I like that strategic giving. What would you say it was? Strategic
giving blueprint.
Strategic giving blueprint. That's pretty cool. Okay. All right. Well, Casey, thank you so much for sharing your time. This has been great. Where can the audience go to learn more about you, connect with you, or learn more about, I guess there's togethercfo.com. But where can the audience go to learn more about you?
Yeah, the main place will be togethercfo.com, and then Together CFO on all platforms. YouTube, we've got a lot of great content on our YouTube platform, Instagram, Twitter, but the main one is going to be our website and YouTube.
All right. Well, thank you again for your time. This has been excellent. And thank you, everybody, for listening, and we will see you next time.